So I first came across this book around 2006, and I was working on I Am Legend, and I was working with Akiva Goldsman on that project, and we were trying to find something to do after that, and he asked if I had read The Long Walk, and I had not. So he gave me a copy of the book. I read it, instantly fell in love with it. It became my favorite Stephen King book. And we went to go after the rights to see if we could do it together. And somebody else, another filmmaker, had just gotten the rights, and which was, a very sad thing. And I remember giving my younger son, who really loved to read, The Long Walk because I thought he'd love it, and it became his favorite book. And one day, not long ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was walking down the hall of my house and I saw his copy of the book sitting on a shelf. And I thought, I haven't heard about The Long Walk in a long time. And that very same day, I got a call from Roy Lee, my producer, saying, hey, would you be interested in doing The Long Walk? And it was just this weird thing of it having been in my life for so long, loving the book so much, and then this kind of strange, magical day of seeing it again, thinking about it, Roy calling me, and I said, yes, definitely, let's do it. I was kind of raised watching movies based on Stephen King novels, and so really always watched and loved those adaptations. I had, read numerous books of his. I always gravitated toward the ones that were less supernatural and more grounded. The stories like The Long Walk that have a very grounded, authentic feeling to them, or Misery is another one of my favorite, books of his. Adaptations can always be really tricky, and it was interesting because The Long Walk is a very specific kind of a story. And so when it came time to adapting this, I started talking to Roy Lee, our producer, and he had just done a movie with J.T. Molnar, and he had given us a script of his, the script for Strange Darling, which was really, really good. And what I kind of loved was this idea of working with a writer-director, actually, somebody that really thinks cinematically. And he wrote it really pretty quickly, and it was a great collaboration. And luckily, because of my relationship with Lionsgate, we were able to sort of push it into production, and we kind of hit this window where we could go up to Canada and in the summer season, and it's like everything kind of worked together. One of the interesting aspects about the story itself, Stephen King's story, is he was writing a novel that was sort of a reaction to the Vietnam War, and a bit of a war allegory. And so I kind of ran with that a little bit. And I didn't want to explain too much about what the world is and how the government works and too many details, because it's truly a story that's about these young men, and it's about their relationships and their emotional dynamics. And that's really the heart of it. The story is simple. In the movie, it's 50 young men. When the gun goes off, you start to walk. You have to walk at over 3 miles an hour. If you dip below 3, you get a warning. If you get 3 warnings, you get your ticket, which means you get shot. And it really is a contest about endurance, but they're all very desperate because of the world they live in. That there's a financial prize they're all really hoping for, and they all really need. And it's a thing that is televised, and it's meant to inspire. And somehow, even as violent as it is, it's meant to sort of inspire hope and to show that hard work and endurance will bring prosperity. Garrity and McVries are really the two leads. I mean, it really is an ensemble cast, and the cast is fantastic, but McVries and Garrity are the leads of this movie, and their friendship is at the heart of this movie. They truly become like brothers over the course of this walk. I felt like I always wanted Cooper as Garrity, and kind of had my sights set on him from the very beginning. I had worked with his father on, some of the Hunger Games films, and seen him in Licorice Pizza, and really, really liked his work, and just thought he was so talented and so grounded and so authentic. And then David Johnson, who plays McVries, was actually, he came in and read for it, and I remember knowing instantly this guy is going to be McVries and just being blown away by his performance and his read. And weirdly, also seeing him do it, I knew the movie was going to work. There was just something about his take on the character and the language and the relationships that I knew it was going to work. You know, one of my sort of references for this movie was The Outsiders. When, you know, you look back to Coppola's The Outsiders and you look at the ensemble cast of like these great young actors and how different the sort of personalities were for one another. And as I was thinking about that as a reference, you could sort of see how the specific sort of personalities and the things that these guys could bring really just matched up with very specific characters. The Long Walk is a pretty brutal movie, and it's not the kind of thing that is necessarily everybody's cup of tea. And so, you know, you send a script like this out to people and it could scare them. And luckily, Judy was really connected to the emotional content of it and the relationship of the boys. And she was really moved by it and really moved by her part of the story and the connection with her son, played by Cooper. All the guys in the movie loved working with her too, especially Cooper. Star Wars was such a huge, important movie for me. I mean, I think I saw it when I was 7 years old, you know, multiple times in the theaters, and so inspirational. And so, you know, to be working with Luke Skywalker is crazy. I started thinking to him in the sort of newer Star Wars movies and the kind of weariness that he had as like an aging Luke Skywalker that I really liked for the Major. And he read the script and I think it sort of scared him a bit. And he told me, it was interesting, that he moved around and from, you know, around military bases when he was a kid. And he's really deep down kind of knew guys like this. And so Mark was really easily able to kind of, you know, conjure this character up from, you know, his memories from his youth. My approach to the movie really starts with the novel, right? That the novel is unflinching in the way it portrays violence. And that impact is very important to, you know, the Stephen King stories. That intensity is really important to his stories, to this story in particular, and I was not going to shy away from it. So that was something that we kind of baked in from the beginning. We shot this movie chronologically, and ideally, any movie I do, if I could, I would shoot it chronologically. This movie somehow lent itself toward this approach because they keep moving. So that basically with every scene, they're moving further and further down a road and you're not really repeating any locations. And so you can, you know, start with Garrity and his mom driving up and start with Garrity and McVries meeting and starting with meeting with the other guys, and then the gun goes off and then they're walking and start with them walking there. And I will say the amazing thing about it was for how good it was for the actors, also for me, just in terms of performance, to then going out in 100-degree heat and walking for a week and going, oh my God, what have we gotten ourselves into? And they're getting closer. The sort of bonding over the walking and the weather and, you know, all of this kind of stuff. I knew very quickly that as we were preparing for prep, that this movie was going to have to be made very differently than anything we've made before. And so we had to sort of build a production that was constantly on the move, which is very, very different. You know, that means that, you know, our cameras are on cranes that are on driven by electric vehicles. So there's a choreography of making sure the guys driving the vehicles, who are on this movie just as important as the camera operators, they're driving those vehicles, watching that speedometer because they're partly gauging, you know, that we're going the correct speed. And then you'd have multiple vans with the hair, the makeup, the wardrobe people, all of that. So there was this caravan that would move during the shooting for every single take. We sort of called ourselves a rain or shine production, and we would show up, see what the weather is. We also tried to keep everything electric to try and keep the noise level down. It was a very, very specifically curated way of making a movie because it was very specific. I'd never shot in Winnipeg before. So I said, listen, I'll go out there and I'll look and see if I can find the locations and make this movie work there. So I went out to Winnipeg and actually fell in love with the look and feel of the locations. What I loved was there's a sort of an American Gothic Midwestern feel to that area. There's also a sort of a period quality to parts of downtown, to some of the smaller towns that you can go through that like really fit the feel and the aesthetic that we were going for with this movie. We were shooting in summer and it can be quite beautiful. I got a call from him because he really liked the movie, and it was very exciting to get a call on my phone from Maine, and it was Stephen King, and we had a really, really nice chat that I will remember forever. It's built to be watched on a big screen. It's an intense experience. It's a communal experience. You know, you watch it on a big screen with an audience and you can feel everybody sort of leaning in, everybody reacting to the humor, everybody reacting to the violence, everybody reacting to the emotional loss of characters. And I think that's an important part of, you know, a movie experience. This was a very unique way of making a movie, and it had unique challenges, and you have to kind of get into the right mindset. I really enjoyed this group of actors. There was something about Stephen King's dialogue and JT's script and these young men that were just sort of perfect, and I could count on all of them to just bring it. I'm really proud of the movie. So yeah, just really happy with the whole process.